guys, it's Dr. Sage, and I really wanted to share the last installment around isolation in terms of the video for the journal exercise, because I think that this is such an important part of dealing with our shame and CPTSD. I really know and believe that you can be and feel more alone in a relationship than you ever can feel when you're alone. And I think one of the biggest reasons why is because, at least if you are single or alone, there is the potential hope that someday you'll meet someone. But when you are feeling trapped in a relationship, suffocated, lonely, isolated, wounded, it truly can be the loneliest feeling in the world. And many times, those of us who suffer with CPTSD, we often self-create these dynamics, sometimes with partners who are very much a repetitive, the repetition compulsion of our childhoods, and other times because we just feel that way no matter who we're with. And so this video will address that concept of being alone, what we often do, and provide a journal exercise at the end for you to explore your feelings of isolation and how you might work to change and control those in a different way so that you don't feel so alone. The first issue is obviously if you are in an unhealthy relationship with a partner who cannot meet your emotional needs and or who is highly avoidant and or just has no interest in healing the relationship, there's no magic pill for that one, right? That is something that you have to figure out if you can work out together or not. But it may also be that you bring your own dynamics of isolation into a relationship. And so maybe you have, some of those more classic avoidant dynamics. And so let's talk quickly about what those might look like and how you also might have some more anxious attachment, patterns that might create a sense of feeling alone, even if you are in a decently healthy relationship. So the first thing is that if you are somebody who tends to see that, weakness is something you don't want to tolerate, that you're very much an autonomous person, that you sort of look down on those who are needy and just can't get their needs met, and yet you often feel that no one really gets you. You are the only one that can take care of yourself. You might have some avoidant qualities. If you're someone who values achievement over everything else, if in your home and your home life as a child, you could say, we didn't really talk much about emotions and feelings. It was more about what we did. We were provided for, we had food, we had clothes, we had shelter, or we were highly driven and performance driven, and we got lots of ribbons and rewards. But there wasn't a lot of I see you for you. It was about doing, not so much about being. You might have that dynamic. And if you had a childhood where being close to a parent who was overly involved in your state of mind, who was always trying to get you to be their best friend or solve their problems, or who yelled or screamed a lot, or who was unsafe, or who really swung from one end to the other in terms of attachment, from being unavailable to overly invested, it might be that as an adult you find that there's just this wall between you and the rest of the world, and that you need to keep that wall there because if you get too close, it just feels too vulnerable. And yet you have this longing inside to be closer, but you don't know how to do it. This might be the video for you, right? And so it is this combination of this avoidant attachment where we have to keep that separation, but that deep longing to be connected also and to wanting to be close that often creates, I think, more of a push-pull on the attachment spectrum than other types of childhood stories. And so if you think about the hallmark of CPTSD being interpersonal drama or trauma, it really meant that in many ways life was unpredictable and therefore human beings are unpredictable. And so let's talk a bit more about how we do that and what you can do about it. Now, as I said in my last video around our tendency to be self-critical, we often do a few things. We often get into our perfectionistic selves, right? It's all about, if I'm just perfect, I can get the love I didn't get in childhood. Now, you're often not thinking that in your head. It's more of a subconscious process, but you're just driven. You do, go, go, go. You're always busy. You're a workaholic. These are often signs as well. You look for external rewards, and you look for ways to avoid the feelings, and so that keeps you feeling, frankly, more alone even when you're with somebody. You also might see the world in black and white. You might have a hard time accepting that human beings have a gray area, and in fact, you live in the gray area too. But it is so much easier for you to right and wrong everything because in your childhood, you weren't given the luxury of that gray area space to breathe. But you're putting that on the person in your life that you love. And so everything they do is right or wrong, good or bad. And that's a setup for you being perpetually disappointed and also feeling alone. The next few things we often do is we have this very negative sense of self we place on others as well as ourselves. So we're often harshly critical and judgmental. As a result of that, we are always looking for the bad side, the negative side, and if you look hard enough, you'll always find it, right? Given the fact the brain is so wired for negativity. We also tend to want to be over-controllers and micromanagers, and so we want everyone to do things the way we want them. And then when they don't, we have all this justification for being mad and upset, hurt and wounded and righteous. At the end of the day, we end up still feeling alone because that way of engaging in the world does not bring us into connection. It brings us out of connection, out of vulnerability and support and safety. And so the last thing we do is we also search the world for danger, right? At any given turn, you're going to leave me, I'm going to lose you, I'm going to be hurt, you're going to hurt me. We tend to take this idea about endangerment and we spread it everywhere because at the core, there's no predictability in the world with a certain childhood and nothing is safe and no one is safe. But all of that anxiety about at any moment losing you while also putting the wall between us as I did to protect myself, right, with that avoidant part, makes me walk around feeling more and more alone. And so if you do any of those, I would highly encourage you to explore them and think about them. I'll post more videos on how to address those issues down the road. If you want to do the journal series with me now, the next step, this would be the time to do it. If you are done with this video, feel free to end it now. But if you've been doing the journal with me, this is the next part on isolation, okay? So grab your journals and find your journal page. Once again, I've lost my flower cover that I had on here. But what you're going to do on this page is really talk to the parts of yourself that isolate. And so the first question is really, when do I feel most alone in my life, in my relationships? So ask yourself, do you notice that you feel it in a room full of people? Do you feel it at the end of the day? Do you feel it the first thing you wake up in the morning, feeling alone, that I'm in this all by myself every day? It's even though I have a husband or a wife and kids, it's just me. I feel so overwhelmed and alone. Ask yourself where those triggers are. Where do you feel that? And the next part would be to ask yourself, okay, what tactics might I be using that also maintain that sense of aloneness? And by tactics, I mean, like I just said, what do I use? Do I use perfectionism? Do I use harsh judgments? Do I use my self-hatred? Do I use micromanagement? Do I use busyness and workaholism to keep everyone at bay? And so I want you to really explore where you feel alone and where you use tactics that actually maintain that sense of aloneness. And so, for example, if you use things like micromanagement, that often means that everything has to be done your way. And what that means is you're not asking your partner for help. So maybe in the morning it's your job to get the kids ready and get yourself to work, and the other partner does, very few things, and yet you resent them every day. And so you don't ask for help because you don't think they can do it your way. And I promise you that's true. They may not do it as good as you. But would you rather have support and help within reason, or would you rather wake up every day feeling exhausted and alone and resentful, right? Or do you tend to spend so much time at work that you bury yourself in that and you don't go home to your partner and your children and your family or your pets or whatever they are, and you come home and you say, I work so hard for this family, but then you don't give any space and time to engage with your family. You're exhausted, they're in bed. It's things like that that destroy families and relationships. And they destroy our sense of connection and closeness, because who wants to talk about their needs when they're exhausted, right? And so we're just so busy doing things, we lose that. So ask yourself where you feel alone, what tactics you tend to use, maybe subconsciously, that sabotage what you're doing, and choose 3 ways you'd like to change. 3 things you want to hold yourself accountable to that will help you stop making those self-sabotaging, really more isolating behaviors and emotions and ways of engaging in your life. So thanks for watching. Have a beautiful Valentine's Day. I hope you know that, we're all struggling to make our relationships work. It is work, but you can do it. You truly can, but I know it's not easy. So have a great day. Take good care, and I'll see you soon. Bye, guys.